there are clear questions for the RAF and the MOD, and there's going to need to be a significant inquiry into how this breach happened.
A major security breach at one of the most secure military facilities in the country. But what's the government going to do about it? Well, Palestine Action is a group that have performed more extreme stunts as the war in Gaza has continued to develop. The latest stunt, well, it can hardly be described as a stunt, can it? It is the breaking into of a secure RAF facility, Brize Norton, and the damage to 2 aircraft, Voyager aircraft, crucial for refueling missions within the RAF. Now, this is an incredibly serious issue of breaching of security and damage of high-grade military hardware. It seems to go beyond what most ordinary people would describe as protest in a free society. But the question is, at what point does this damage to military vehicles, this breaching of high security areas, at what point does this stretch from being protest to being something much more serious? Some are describing this as an act of terror. After all, the definition of terror is the damage to individuals or property in the pursuit of a political aim. And is that not what's going on here? Well, some people would stop short of that very hot button word, but clearly there is something going on here that is more than just waving a placard or standing on Parliament Square. This is a very different form of protest, if that's even a word that we can apply to this situation. People might think that breaking onto a secure, top security military facility would have you shot on sight. Well, clearly not in this case. There have been failings clearly in those who have run RAF Brize Norton, which, let's not forget, is the chosen takeoff and landing area, not just for so much of our military, but also for the royal family. For senior politicians too, when they make serious and important journeys around the world. I myself have visited the facility to interview Boris Johnson as his plane landed back from Ukraine. This is the sort of place that we're talking about. I have to say that I, as a journalist, when visiting this particular base, had to be escorted at all times. There were multiple checkpoints to make sure I was who I said I was. It seemed as though the security was incredibly tight. This was back in 2022. But why then, in 2025, have in the dead of night dedicated Palestinian activists been able to break through into the heart of such a secure facility and damage such important planes in our Royal Air Force? Well, that is a serious question, and people are raising the question of why, in particular, this group, Palestine Action, have been able to get away with so many patently illegal acts in recent times, whether it's dousing various buildings that are linked to the government or indeed to military contractors in red paint, trying to shut down factories that might have a part in any sort of military supply chain. This stuff goes beyond protest in the eyes of many, but what is particularly brazen about it all is that Palestine Action is an organised group. It's an organised group with social media accounts, with identifiable figures who volunteer for it. They appear on podcasts, they speak at various events, and yet, despite being linked to this group that seems to exist to carry out illegality, and dangerous illegality at that, why should this organisation be able to exist, be able to raise funds, be able to have people walk free associated with it? That is a question that was raised today by Nigel Farage, and also by Lord Walney. Now, he is the former advisor to the government on issues of violent protest, on issues of extremism, and we sat down with him to hear his take on what exactly should happen to this group, Palestine Action. Well, we can now speak with the former Labour MP, now member of the House of Lords, of course, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, thanks so much for joining us on this. What do you think should now happen to this group? I mean, this is an incredibly serious thing, breaking into a secure military compound.
It is. I mean, there are clear questions for the RAF and the MOD, and there's going to need to be a significant inquiry into how this breach happened. But Palestine Action have been carrying out operations like this for years now, and they've been targeting defence companies and any company that spirals off into their mind, often really tangentially, to in some way supporting Israel's war effort. And this is terrorising workers, and it is undermining Britain's national security. So there is a clear case for prescribing this organisation on the definitions within the Terrorism Act. But you know what? That's often a finely judged decision for ministers, and I can understand why they want to amass evidence before they actually decide to make that call. The evidence is stacking up, but even if they were not to be prescribed as a terrorist group, there are things that can be done to ban them from being able to operate and brazenly broadcast out their crimes as something that they're actually proud of.
Well, that's the thing, Lord Wolney. That's the thing. It's so brazen. Posting with pride all over social media the criminal activity that you've literally just undertaken, and presumably they think that nothing's going to happen to them. That the law isn't going to keep up with them. And also, sorry, Lord Wolney.
Well, yes, that's right. The deterrent effect for Palestine Action is clearly not there at the moment, and for the vast majority of people looking at it, they'll be thinking, why on earth is this organisation allowed to operate? Why can it openly have social media accounts where it, as you say, it live streams sometimes the operations, and on this it puts out the footage itself? Why is it able to raise money? Why is it able to freely open and organise? It will be quite simple for the government to stop that happening, even if they didn't go the whole hog of designating them as a terrorist organisation. One of the recommendations in my recent review is that organisations like this that are clearly using systematic criminality to try to affect change should be subject to those kind of restrictions.
Well, this is the incredibly frustrating thing. Again, I mean, these people are absolutely public about what they do. They appear on podcasts, they go to literary festivals, they talk about and then they break into secure military compounds. The sorts of things that when I was growing up, I was told, oh, don't go into that military compound, they'll shoot you. Well, apparently not. I mean, this is extraordinary, but perhaps what is more extraordinary is the statement put out by the Prime Minister around an hour or so ago, where he tweeted, the act of vandalism committed at RAF Brize Norton is disgraceful. Our armed forces represent the very best of Britain and put their lives on the line for us every day. It's our responsibility to support those who defend us. I mean, fine, but he doesn't say what's actually going to happen. I mean, it seems like he's just said, well, this is a bad thing, and that there is no consequence. What do you expect will there be discussions going on in number 10 about what to do?
Yeah, I think there will be. I know that at political and ministerial level there has been concern about Palestine Action for a long time now. It was one of the focuses of my review, as I say, and there has been this increasing drumbeat of criminal and sometimes violent action from this group. My sense, my hope is that that this is so brazen today and is so high profile a breach that it will accelerate those conversations. Being charitable to the Prime Minister and his social media operator, they probably didn't want to get ahead of those, but I am urging the government now to act and to act quickly to make clear to the public.
Lord Wolney, so we're just running out of time, so I'll just put to you what they say they're doing, right? Okay, so they say that they're interrupting Britain's direct participation in the commission of genocide and war crimes across the Middle East. They presumably believe, unless they're just thugs, believe that what they're doing is of some kind of moral virtue. Is there any truth to what they're saying about how these military aircraft could be used in the Middle East for purposes of killing innocent people?
Well, my understanding is that the aircraft that were targeted have nothing to do with any campaign in Israel, and that has been the case for the vast majority of the sites that have been targeted by Palestine Action. They're just breaking into factories, to insurance offices, terrorising workers, sometimes violently attacking them, while often having made up in their heads, they may believe it, they may not, but a link with Israel which just does not exist. Even if it did exist, it would be entirely inappropriate and unacceptable for them to have taken this, but often they're wrong even on that assertion.
Just factually incorrect. Anyway, Lord Wolney, thank you very much. We should say that we have reached out to Palestine Action. We await their response. Lord Wolney, they're a former independent advisor to the government on political violence and disruption, and of course a former Labour MP and now peer.
Well, what do you make of that? Should Palestine Action be prescribed just as we prescribe terror groups? Or does there need to be a third category here of groups that are dedicated to committing illegality but stop short of what we might define as hardcore terrorism? What do we place this group into, and should people associated with it be arrested? Well, that is a question that no doubt people at the heart of government are asking themselves right now. So much was suggested by Lord Wolney. We'll have to wait to see if anything does come on this, but it does look like a damning failure of the security state that this was allowed to happen. Do get involved in the comments section down below. Do provide your thoughts on what should happen to these people. I'm sure some of you have probably stronger ideas than prescription of the organ. That subscribe button to stay absolutely up to date with all the goings and comings and goings of British politics and more wide news here in the United Kingdom.